You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
Welcome back, Life Nation. Today, we'll be interviewing Christine Hansen, the CEO and founder of Sleep Like a Boss. She helps CEOs, executives, and high achievers find their sleep again. All right, Christine, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Super excited.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to have you on. So tell our listeners something interesting about yourself and also where you're calling in from.
Right. So first off, I'm in Luxembourg, Europe, which is one of the tiniest countries in the world, the only Grand Duchy in the world. So there you go for your next Jeopardy round. And something interesting about me, oh my God, there's a lot of things, but probably the most interesting thing is what I do. So I sell sleep, basically. So that's something usually unusual.
My buddies in college, it's funny, my buddies in college would work for this company called Sleep Train. And a lot of my fraternity brothers would end up working for this company. And instead of saying going to work, they would say, hey guys, I got to go deliver a better night's sleep.
Yep, that's it.
So I love it. So, but you're definitely, I know, on a more mental level. We'll definitely get into that. And I'm excited to hear more about it. So tell us a little bit about what your company does, the name of the company, what it brings to the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. So my company is called Sleep Like a Boss. We are myself, the CEO and founder, and 6 team members working all over the world online, mainly with our clients. And we deliver a bespoke clinical service combined with mental stress resilience training. And that's what really makes us unique in the sleep world, because we do completely understand that sleep is physical and metaphysical. So we run lab tests, we look at hormones, the gut, food sensitivities, hair tissue mineral analysis for cells, and then we also look at the mind, because sleep is both, right? So there's no one else who's doing it that way, and that gives us a little bit of a monopoly in that way.
Oh, sure. It sounds like it. Are you guys, from a monopoly standpoint, is there not many in the market for what you do?
There's nobody who does it now.
Is
Lots
that
of
right?
people, you have the typical, you have a lot of sleep clinics that either focus on sleep disease or sleep disorders, or you have trainers who are more into just cognitive behavior therapy or maybe a little bit of lifestyle adaptation. But there's nobody who's really going digging in a holistic point of view at a level that we do.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into this.
Well, I've always been a sleep lover, and I got into it actually when I got pregnant with my daughter 6 years ago, and I was freaking out because everyone was telling me that I'd never sleep again, and I was like, that's not going to happen because I want to go back to work, I want to live, and I know that I die without sleep. I feel horrible. So I Googled everything on sleep, and based on that, I started my business as a baby sleep consultant, and it turns out I really don't like babies. I like my own, but nobody else's really.
Yeah.
So I shifted into working with adults and figured out very quickly that every resource out there is pretty much limited. So I cobbled everything together, taking different degrees and certifications and diplomas, and really dove into functional medicine mainly. And then I just, the more I learned, the more I saw the different strings, how everything is connected. And from there, I basically took the essence of what I was using over and over with my clients, which is now the Sleep Like a Boss method that I use and that I teach my team.
What do you tell our listeners? And I love the topic, by the way, because I was this guy, and our listeners I know are this guy right now too. The majority of them are going to be, I just got to grind. I don't have time to sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm just going to work because our listeners are entrepreneurs, and I know that as an entrepreneur lifestyle, I work. I'll be recording today for 14 hours. Hey, I get it, but I'm also going to make sure I get 8, no matter what. I schedule. I schedule my life around sleep, of course, but I obviously have things to do. But what do you tell the people out there that are just, hey, I got to grind? This is a grind mentality.
I don't say anything because I'm not an evangelist in terms of trying to convince people. I'm over that. I think I did that in
Yeah.
the beginning where I was like preaching how important sleep is to your intelligence, to your health and so forth. But I'm over it. Literally, if you think that you're smarter without sleep, then you're not. And it's going to hit home at some point. And I think the people that we work with are specifically CEOs, high executives who have found out the hard way that not sleeping is literally hurting everything else. So it's not worth it. And that makes it a pleasure to work with them because I don't need to convince them because they are ready. So when I have someone who's still in that grinder mentality, for me, it very often means that they're not mature enough yet, that they haven't been in the game long enough yet. And it's really a question of personal development. But I'm not the
Right.
person to convince them. That's not me.
Well, then I'll do it. Okay, everybody, if you're listening, I think that, because I want to drop value on these guys, and it's so important. If you're not, and we can drop how many hours or whatever it is, but if you're sleep deprived, then you're getting sick regularly. You're likely not exercising regularly. You're assuming that more time is equaling more dollars, and likely it's not. And I think that from a maturity level, like you mentioned, Christine, I think that's a good point. We're not saying that there's immaturity out there. A lot of times it's just the education that we hear it, but we need to change the I don't know if it's an ABC or NBC thing that says the more you know. It's like not the more you know, it's the more you do. And if you can do more, be more productive and learn how to do those things and master your skill set versus mastering sitting at a desk for 12 hours and thinking that that's productive, you're going to have to get some sleep, because if not, you're going to run into that wall at some point, and it's going to likely be a health scare. And so I think that's my 2 cents on it, but I think it's not just from a personal level. I've seen it. I've seen it from a stress level for sure too. And stress, we know what that can do to a body. What do you think many entrepreneurs out there, and this is whether it's sleep or not, why do you think many entrepreneurs out there just end up either failing or giving up on their goals, their ambitions?
I honestly think that to be an entrepreneur, it is a very certain kind of person. It's definitely not the norm. And that's, and I really believe that. I really think that some people really want to be an entrepreneur, but they're just not designed for it. I think you need a tremendous amount of resilience. You need unfortunately, I also think that you need to be smart with your money in the beginning. You need to have some financial reserves. It is going to cost you in the beginning.
Right.
So I think that's also a point. And then I also think a lot of people get stuck in overconsumption. So what I mean by that, and that's very often what I find grinders, so to say, they consume and consume and consume and consume, but actually their implementation is very often lacking. So they implement everything kind of ish. So they're busy all the time, but they don't take the time to take a step back and actually evaluate what I just implemented. Is that actually me? Is that actually efficient? Does it actually work? And then very often they're too stubborn, saying, okay, I've started this, I invested in this, so I have to finish it. But if it's not working, then don't. And I think those are all things that you learn over time, combined with personal development. And I think that's another big one. If you don't work on yourself, you're never going to make it. And it's the hardest journey you can ever take, but it's just underestimated by too many people.
I love that. Yeah, definitely invest in yourself. That's great advice, Christine. Tell me when you started your company, Sleep Like a Boss.
So Sleep Like a Baby, I started in 2015, and Sleep Like a Boss, I started in 2016. So I've dropped my first idea after a year, which was scary too.
Sure. No, and that's what I want to chat. I think that just kind of dovetails me to the next question as far as all these, let's say over the past 5-6 years, what has been a time where you had to really overcome and a crazy hurdle to kind of get through the entrepreneurship journey and keep going?
I think the kicker was 2 years ago when I was married, and it was always in a way that we used to pay our mortgage, and then whatever else was left, we would pay all our bills. And then if ever we didn't, then we had our savings account. So one month, my then husband had paid all the bills first inadvertently, and the mortgage didn't go out because there was not enough money in the checking account. And it was fine because we did have a backup account, but that was the moment where I was like, okay, this is it. I cannot just work and not even be able to support this household. that was really tough. And then I got a financial coach. I faced my numbers and actually got to deal with my numbers. And at the same time, also used all the rest of the money that I had to also invest in a personal development coach. And it led me also to understand that I had completely changed as a person. And ultimately, and that's not what everyone has to go through, but for me, it also became very clear that me and my partner didn't jive anymore. So within a year, everything changed. I decided to get a divorce. I knew that I couldn't continue that way. And that's obviously not the way for everyone, but that was the right thing for me to do. But it was definitely not easy because I decided, okay, first of all, I have to really step up now. And I did. And it changed everything. My company took off. I went from charging 800 to 7,000, the same package. And everything just changed, and now I have my own responsibility. I don't have a backup anymore. And that was a tough decision. But I think trusting in that and not stopping, like you cannot be paralyzed all the time, was the biggest lesson there.
What's happening, Life Nation? Michael Levis here. This is a time to do the right thing, not the profitable thing. I'm giving away COVID-19 business strategy sessions for free. I promise to give you my honest advice and coach you on a strategy that I feel would be best for the longevity of your business. I'm not asking you for your money, but in the interest of being able to help as many people as I can, I am asking you to be ready with your 1 to 2 specific questions so we can jump right into it. Go to michaellevis.com/coaching and simply schedule a call on my calendar. That's MIKEOLIVAS.com/coaching. I think that's great. I think the not stopping part, sometimes we say it a lot on the show, and I hope that it doesn't become redundant, but I also hope that it kind of does for the entrepreneurs out there that want to start something where, is it cliche? Maybe a little bit, but it's so true. Just figure it out, don't stop, and keep rocking. And so thank you for sharing that. I definitely appreciate the breakdown. I mean, the financial coach thing, I think it's so huge. I think everyone thinks that they know everything about their money and what to do with it. And it's so, I have one, right? Everyone has one. My financial coaches have one. Like, what does that tell you? Like, I have a coach to help me with, hey, my podcast in the right way, and a CEO coach to help me making sure that I'm leading the right way. And so there's so many different angles on making sure you're getting the help that is necessary. And if you can't afford it either, then you got to educate yourself, but also do it. And also listen to things like listen to podcasts on a regular basis. Is this a no-brainer, whether it's mine or someone else that you resonate with, just continuously educating yourself, and something's going to spark. And that's kind of what's excited about that. So tell me a little bit about what you're excited about within your company right now.
There's a lot of different things. So my company is twofold at the moment. So obviously I still work myself with private clients. I support my team on building their businesses. And I also do business mentoring for people in the health sector or personal development sector, because it's very different to sell something as intangible as health or personal development than, let's say, money or something, a product, for example. So I do help there. And at the moment, it's an interesting time, because I don't know when you will be listening to this episode, but I was, this morning I learned that I couldn't fly out to the US anymore because of the coronavirus, where we were supposed to have our mastermind retreat. And my exciting time at the moment is that I'm planning a business retreat or a business vacation, I will call it, not a retreat, in Bali in June. And those are things I adore, and that is interesting right now, because I see it as a learning curve. I really see it as a great lesson to make sure that your contracts are ironclad, learning more about cancellation policies, negotiating like a boss, really. So I don't see it as something negative, but it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is exciting. It's funny you mentioned that, because and when people listen to this, they're going to hear like, oh yeah, I remember the coronavirus. Let's hope that they say that, right?
Yes.
That I remember the coronavirus. So, but I have a national group travel company. It's my largest business, and it's exciting time for us as we grow. And we just got hit with hundreds of thousands of dollars of cancellations yesterday. Now, I was very worried, and today I probably should be focused on it, but I can't. I have a commitment here to make sure I give people 7 days a week, like I tell them I'm going to. So I have 24 of these podcasts knocking out today. But when it comes down to it, like what you mentioned, you're right. The contractual stuff is so huge, and it's definitely a crazy challenge that can make or break a travel industry for sure, or anybody that has to do in the health world. But, we're lucky we're not on quarantine. So unfortunately, people are like, hey, look at the contract, right? That's what
Yes.
look at, we don't care. And it's like, all right, well, they're right. We're not on quarantine. So we have to find different angles, but negotiating agreements, guys. And this is a great takeaway for the listeners is negotiating agreements, knowing what a force majeure clause looks in the hospitality world on a cancellation side is definitely super important. So,
and everywhere.
go ahead.
I mean, that's just the main lesson that I would also give any entrepreneur is to make sure you get a lawyer to write your contract. Don't copy paste, don't buy a template. Right. And it might seem expensive when you start off, but it's going to save your butt, like for sure.
Yeah. I think with contracts, I tell people, I'm coming from dozens of litigations over the past 11 years. I think I would tell people just think about what can really go wrong and then reverse engineer your contracts into that. And that's the best way to do it. Okay, guys. So if you're listening, you're in the service industry, or even if you have a product, at the end of the day, you still got to have terms and agreement. And so making sure that you're able to kind of reverse engineer the worst situation and ensuring that you're at the most possible mitigating as much risk as you possibly can. So that's a no-brainer. That it's going to happen sometimes, and it's not if, it's not when it's not if, it's when, and it's as you grow. It's kind of a growing period, but being prepared for it is very mature from a entrepreneur standpoint, guys. So out there, if you're listening, take this to just as gold. If you think it's just may not happen, you're going to put it off. It could happen tomorrow. So making sure that you're on the same page there from a legal standpoint. So how are you currently, or how have you felt that you've been able to plan or just live the life and build the life that you want to live with your business?
I take a lot of time off and I don't work a lot. So that has helped a lot. I really decided to focus on high end. So I just need one client a month and I'm totally fine with that. So I really restructured everything and just own what I can do, which again, a lot of us don't do. A lot of us still want to charge hourly out pricing instead of the talent and the skill that you have. So that has helped a lot. And then the other thing is that this year is the first time that I actually planned my year. That I actually took a visual calendar, put it on the wall, blocked out the weeks where I had retreats, conferences, where I wanted to do marketing, and also block out free time, like weeks where I just take time off. And those are non-negotiable. And that I still have a lot of time open because until now I used to fill everything up. And if something else came on top, I would just push myself. And it really left me drained last year. Last year was a lot of work, all good, but exhausting. So this year, I left a lot of open space. And lo and behold, that open space has filled up. But now I'm full instead of being overdoing it. And that's a really, really nice feeling. And I think everyone should really be sure to take that time because I really find that time where you don't work is when you can actually ponder on your decision, on getting in touch with your gut feeling again. And that's when the best decisions and best ideas actually happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to rest the brain, and you'll be surprised on how you come back so fresh and full of just different ideas and being excited to actually implement them versus writing them down and forgetting about them. And I think that non-negotiable time off, listeners, I think that's awesome. Thank you, Christina. Out of all your successes and failures in your business, what is the one piece of parting advice that you'd give to the Business and Life Nation listening today?
Oh God, there's so many. Never buy something that sounds too good to be true. In terms of, I will guarantee that you'll make 6 figures in 3 weeks or something like that. Like I'm happy about all the experiences I've made. They were all a learning experience. I can now say that I'm grateful for them. But at the time, especially when I started, I didn't know marketing. I didn't know copywriting. So when I read those pages now, I'm like, how could you be so gullible? But that's just something where I'd be step back a minute and just do your homework. Do you check if those people actually have the credibility? Do they actually look like, sound like they can pull that off? Just do due diligence before buying very intuitively, which is something that I usually do.
I think in the world of, especially in the world of coaches and trainers and people that are just self-proclaimed great life coach, health coach, sleep coach, you name it, right? I think it's really important that you mentioned the due diligence side. And there's I was at a conference recently and someone was talking about creating the Yelp and or the the trust kind of website around the coaching world. And I think it's necessary because also when you're out there looking for one, whether it's someone that I'm interviewing on the show, listeners, and or anyone that you're Googling, ask them a few things. I'd ask them generally, what is it that, what is that you do differently? And then two, let me speak with someone that you currently are working with. And that's a really big one because if they don't want to give that to you, there's a reason. Like I'm happy to give anybody of my clients, like, sure, talk to them. I don't care if they say good or bad things, but the transparency is where it's at, and saying what happened when things aren't always going to be happy, go lucky with every client. But I think that the reality of it is just saying, listen, they're still helping me. I'm still with them because there's a trust factor. And that's what it comes down to is peace of mind. The person that you're working with, one, is directing you in the best possible way.
Yeah, I agree.
And talking to others, right?
Yeah, totally. And sometimes it's hard, because my clients don't necessarily want everyone to know that they're working with me because they don't want everyone to know that they invested that much into something trivial, air quotes, asleep. But I mean, it just takes time and you will have people who step up. And the other thing is, look if there's some tangibles in there as well. I mean, for us, we run lab tests. So we have clear numbers that we can show our clients, so that will differentiate too. So if you are in that business, make sure that you have some tangibles in there, some really clear deliverables.
Yeah, absolutely. There should be some kind of statement of work. If I give you X, what is Y? What are you giving me in return for that? 100%. And a lot of people are hard or will say, I say this, but I don't ever say that you're going to get a lot of value out of it. But coaching isn't a straight line. Things happen. I'm talking to somebody and like you mentioned, like all of a sudden business is killing it. And then it's divorce time. Well, guess what? That's called business and life. Hence the podcast name. Those things come together and it's like, listen, you're going to start pivoting and that's normal. But if anything, I help put out fires. I help focus on what generates revenue and only those things at those times versus long-term. And those are kind of things where it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when the world's crashing down on you. And I think that's where coaching comes in because a lot of times it's therapy, it's life coaching, and then it becomes like, I get it. Let's just try to find out to make sure we're making do on a revenue level at least and keep going. So where can people find you?
sleeplikeaboss.com. It's the easiest way. That's my website. And then you can find me on all social media, either through my name, Christine Hansen, or Sleep Like a Boss.
Christine, thank you so much for your time and all the knowledge that you dropped for our listeners today.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Libas, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.